Hey everyone, Ronan here, and welcome back to the channel. We got a massive part to cover today, as this is the official start of the league. But before we get into that, DIDNT, thank you very much for your support over on Patreon. And please, don't forget to check out these analytics over here, and drop a like and a comment to help fuel the algorithm. And if this is your first time here to the channel, please make sure to subscribe so that way you'll never miss another upload. And if you want to consider supporting us even further, consider becoming a YouTube channel member or a patron. You'll get exclusive access to content that I don't post on YouTube, and early access to everything else that I do. But with all that being said, let's get into What If Ash Won the Hoenn League Part 19. I hope you enjoy. We begin today's part with our heroes, as the boat they are traveling on has come into view of their final destination that Ash and Pikachu have both dreamt of since the moment they came to Hoenn nearly a year ago. The group stands quiet for a moment as the ship approaches the port. However, the first to break the silence is Max, as he is awestruck by the grandeur of this place. "Hey Ash, does the league always feel like this?" Smiling back, Ash states that he's been in many different leagues, and every time it always feels like the first time. Ash says that there is no other feeling that gives him more of a rush than when he knows that he's going to get a chance to battle strong opponents. Everything that they have been through over the last year has been in preparation for this. Every moment, good or bad. Now there's only one question left: who is the best? Max asks if Ash feels nervous. However, the boy shakes his head, stating that he's excited. This will be the chance for him to claim the crown of champion. He knows that his Pokemon can do it, and with all of them here to support him, there's no way that they can lose. This comment strikes a sore spot for Max, as he tells Ash sorry once again for what he put him through, but the boy tells Max not to worry about it. He knows it's hard to grow up. "I've had a friend that was forced to go her own separate way, and that I haven't seen in over a year. It's not because we fell apart, but just because life pulls us in different directions. It's something we all have to deal with eventually." Max smiles, thanking Ash for accepting his apology again. However, the boy isn't the one that is having thoughts of dread in his head, as just behind Ash, May is now in her own mind, struggling with the inevitable certainty of what's next after the league. Something she has been trying not to think about, but the closer they get to the start of the league, the more it pounds in her mind, reminding the girl that soon she will have to face the next chapter of her life, with or without her friends. However, May's trance is broken when the ship lets out a cry from its huge horn, signaling that the docks are done and the passengers can now depart the ship for the festivities that await in Grande City. Once on the ground, everyone gets a real feel for the scope of everything. While Ash and Brock have seen all this before, May and Max kinda get caught up in all of the excitement, forcing the two to have to chase them down. While normally Ash and Pikachu would all be up for the junk food and what the fairgrounds have to offer, the boy has one thing on his mind, as he needs to get to register for the tournament. So after wrangling Max and May, they head to the reception counter at the Pokemon Center. It's there the three watch as Ash presents all 8 badges of the Hoenn region. As Nurse Joy scans each of them, Ash briefly flashes back to the moment that led up and to ultimately what allowed him to secure each one of the trinkets. A slight sense of accomplishment captures the boy, but it is quickly dispelled as a familiar voice breaks his daydream. "I knew I'd see you here." Turning, our hero sees one of the rivals that he has made over the last year in the region, the one that he lost the 6-on-6 battle to, Tyson. The brown-haired boy stands there, confident with his Meowth, looking like he's grown a bit in the last month since Ash saw him last. Tyson says that he watched May and Ash in the Grand Festival. They were both very impressive. He hopes that they show the same tenacity when he gets his matchups, cause Tyson doesn't want the boy to lose to anyone but him. Smiling, Ash tells Tyson that he's thinking of a far different outcome. This causes both boys to laugh a bit, before it is broken by an announcement that is Mr. Goodshow, as it appears on all the monitors around Grande City. The president of the Pokemon League states that he hopes everyone is well and ready for some intense battles. Tomorrow will be the official lighting of the league torch and the start of the league itself. So everyone must make sure they register before the torch is lit, or they will miss out on their chance to participate in this year's league. "Well, I'm glad that's done," Ash says, only for Tyson to tell him to step aside, so that way Ash won't get a free win with him not in the tournament. With a bit of a chuckle, Ash states that he only wants the win if he can beat everyone here. The boy then yells out, "You hear that? I'm going to beat you all." This causes the center to fall deathly silent, as all eyes are now on our hero. In response, May and Max both duck their heads and cover them as if to signal they are not part of Ash's trademark crazy. But Brock simply states that they can't run from it. This is one of the many things that they will have to deal with if they are going to be friends with Ash, as they watch the boy argue with Tyson on who's going to get their first battle in the league. This causes the two to fold into themselves even more, as Brock just laughs. "Don't worry, you'll get used to it." "I hope so," they both say in tandem as we fade to that night. Ash and Pikachu are lying in bed. The two just look up at the ceiling. "Tomorrow, buddy, we get the chance to show off everything we have learned since coming to Hoenn." The boy then looks at Pikachu. "I don't know what it is, but I can feel it. This time, things are going to be different." The yellow mouse lets out a brief pika before it and Ash fall asleep, awaiting their chance to show the world what they can do. The next morning, Ash and the group are up bright and early. Though he went to bed early, he could barely sleep a wink. So once the sun was up, so was Ash and Pikachu. And after a full meal for him and all of his Pokemon, the boy took off from the center, nearly leaving his friends behind. It's a good thing too, as the crowd to get into the stadium is massive, forcing Ash and Pikachu to fight their way to the front. But this proves to be more difficult than the two had originally thought, as it's 2 steps forward and 3 steps back. The way everyone sees it, Ash is trying to cut in line, and no one is taking too kindly to that. The boy and his starter fight so long that Ash begins to think that they won't be able to make it inside for the torch lighting. This causes the boy to panic and summon the strength that he didn't know he had, as he jumps atop the crowd and stepping on the heads, desperately trying to make his way to the front. Luckily, this shows promise, as the boy is able to make his way to a gatekeeper that is meant to funnel the people into this checkpoint. However, it is at this moment that Ash realizes that he has made a grave mistake, as he sees a bus pulling up, and from it he sees the participants that were all at the center getting off and making their way into the stadium through a private entrance. This causes Ash to struggle, trying to cross the line, but this is when the guard sees the boy, only to apprehend him, due to it looking like he was trying to sneak into the stadium. The boy pleads the case that he is supposed to be on that bus, but the guard isn't willing to hear Ash, only calling for security. Ash is beginning to stress, knowing that he could miss the torch lighting and may be disqualified, but then a thought crosses his mind. If he just runs for it, then maybe he'll be able to get away. Though the problem of the Growlithe that is with the guard proves to be a deciding factor to Ash choosing not to run, as if he gets caught, he may not be allowed to compete in the league at all. Now stuck between a rock and a hard place, Ash sees only one way out. The guard told him that the head of security was coming, so the only thing the boy can do is plead his case to this leader. With a knot now forming in his stomach, Ash hopes that this person is coming is someone of reason. As the sweat rolls down his brow, Ash tenses up as the guard greets the leader with a salute. But this tension is broken with a very familiar voice that Ash has not heard in a good while.
"Hey, what's all this ruckus here?"
Turning, Ash sees Sydney of the Elite Four. This is where the guard begins to explain everything that has been going on, and how Ash had tried to sneak into the stadium to get a free seat. He then claims to be a participant. The Elite seems to stare into the soul of the boy, causing Ash to question if Sydney had forgotten what they went through in Farina. Fearing the worst, Ash clenches every part of his body as the tension builds back up. But this is only momentary, as when our hero's heart nearly jumps out from his chest due to the stress, Sydney lets out a very excited bellow.
"Well, you've been a right knobhead, ain't you, mate?"
Ash stares at Sydney in confusion as his brain struggles to process what's happening.
"Come on now. What, Meow's got your tongue? Where's all that vig you had a minute ago?"
Pointing to himself, Ash questions if Sydney is talking to him.
"Yeah, you can stop playing now."
Sydney then turns to the guard that apprehended Ash.
"Oi, this is me mate, and I say he's right proper for this tournament."
The guard is now looking at Sydney a bit confused about what the Elite just said, causing Sydney to get a little upset and yell something that only Sydney could really understand. But he then grabs Ash.
"Come on, you knob, we'll get you where you need to be."
Sydney then pulls the boy by the arm as the guards watch on, still trying to piece everything together of this whole interaction. Over with Ash and Sydney, they bypass all of the gates and head into the participants area.
"You got yourself in a right pickle, ain't you?"
"Well, I didn't mean to," Ash says. "I just was trying to get inside the stadium so I didn't miss the torch lighting, but the crowd was too big. Then I saw the bus with the participants unloading. I panicked and things got out of hand."
Heh, Not to worry, I did the same thing first OFMY championship. Ended up being late and nearly missed registration. But I ended up winning the whole thing in the end.
Really? Well, thanks for the help, I guess.
No worries, mate. Now run along. You got a big day ahead. Just try not to be a knob moving forward, okay?
Ash then takes off running as the bell has rang for the final call to enter the stadium. He yells thanks to Sydney as it disappears around a corner.
I like his spunk.
Sydney thinks to himself before getting another call over the radio, forcing him to return to work. Over with Ash, he and Pikachu have finally made their way into the stadium, much to the duo's relief. With a sigh, they are directed to the main entrance of the battlefield. Upon entering the stadium, their eyes are caught by the sun, who is just peeking over the main fixture, the ceremonial torch. It's here that Ash looks around to see people beginning to fill the stands as they are directed to their spots for the opening day. However, as Ash looks around, a stark realization sets in. While he's seen Tyson and some other of the high-level opponents that he has been hearing about and experienced over his travels like Veto and the cool beauty of Lily Cove Katie, there is one obviously obnoxious participant missing for this crowd, Morrison. Ash hopes the boy was able to achieve his goal of capturing the badge of his family's gym. While this is a concern, the truth of the matter is Ash can't be concerned about Morrison at this moment. He has much more on his plate with what happens next as he sees a very familiar face enter the stadium, the champion of the Hoenn region, Steven Stone, and 3 out of the 4 of the elites, Sydney, Phoebe, and the ice-cold Glacia. At their head is a person that Ash is all too familiar with, the president of the Pokemon League, Charles Goodshow. Ash and the other participants, as well as the crowd, fall silent as Goodshow takes the mic. The old man welcomes everyone to the Evergrande competition. He is hopeful that everyone is ready for an exciting one. This year has proved to have some of the most powerful and promising talent that he has seen in decades, so he hopes that everyone is ready to kick things off. However, that can't start until we have a beacon to light the way. Turning, the president looks up at the torch, only to announce the carrier of this year's torch. He then asks for everyone to stand as the flame of Moltres, all the way from the Kanto region, are brought in to the stadium. This is a moment of awe as the lone runner makes his way into the stadium to a standing ovation. However, this is going to be interrupted as just behind comes a boy running in, yelling for everyone to wait. Their future champion is almost here, and they can't start without him. Ash peers through the crowd, only to get an answer to his previous question as Morrison comes barreling into the stadium, nearly knocking over the torchbearer in the process, as security guards are in hot pursuit. Perceiving this as a threat, Sydney sends out his Absol to head it off, only for Morrison to stumble and fall just before he takes a shot of a slash. This leaves everyone in utter confusion as the guards have all now dogpiled on Morrison in an attempt to finally show some use for their mediocre skills. Sydney begins to react, calling for Absol to lend a hand as Morrison struggles and babbles incoherently. However, this stops when Ash and Pikachu push their way through the confused crowd. Morrison, he says to the subdued rival. This causes everything to stop, with Sydney questioning Ash.
You know this bloke?
Nervously, Ash says he does, and confirms he is no threat, only a very late competitor.
Wait, you're part of the tournament?
Yeah, Morrison yells. I was trying to tell these guys that, but they wouldn't let me in. It's at this point the elite calls off his ace as Mr. Gosho descends the stairs to the ground. The old man looks at Morrison, only to ask one question. My lad, are you a strong trainer? Without hesitation, Morrison boasts that he's going to win this tournament, and he won't be held back by simple things like these rent-a-cops. This causes everyone to get silent as Goodshow looks at the torchbearer, who seems to be unscathed. With a smile, the president says that everything seems in order. He then orders the guards to release the boy and for Morrison and Ash to rejoin the group. They have a tournament to start. He then returns to the stage, only to ask for everyone to give a round of applause to the torchbearer as they continue their run to the top of the stairs and light the flames to signal the start of this tournament. Wow, Morrison, you know how to make an entrance. The redhead says that he got delayed, so he needed to make sure that they didn't start this without the winner of the tournament. Well, don't worry, Morrison. I'm already here, Ash responds with a smile that causes the two boys to lock eyes. However, they are completely oblivious to the fact that Morrison's stunt has caused a little bit of discord among the other contestants. However, this is going to go unanswered for the time being as Mr. Goodshow announces the start of the tournament. He then directs all the combatants to the locker rooms as they are going to start within the next 30 minutes. There are 5 battlefields spread across the grounds and they will host battles throughout the day until they have wrapped up the preliminaries. The goal is to have the best for tomorrow to really bring in the competition, and since they have over 500 opponents, they want to make this as quick and easy as possible. Goodshow then wishes them all luck. As the crowd disperses, Glacia breaks her silence for the first time.
This group seems more incompetent than anything. This tournament is going to be a letdown. I think Drake had the right idea in skipping this altogether.
I don't think so. There's some raw talent here just waiting to be molded.
Sydney says as he looks on, hoping that Glacia isn't right for once. She may actually have to eat her own words. In the locker room, Ash and Morrison are quick to challenge each other, but both are immediately called up in the first rounds of the battle, which put them on opposite sides of the area. Luckily, they were not paired together, but as Morrison runs off, he tells Ash that he better not lose until they battle. After all, it would be a hollow win if Ash lost before their battle. Ash simply smiles before telling Pikachu it's time for them to go. The boy then takes off, ready to conquer any challenge in their way. While the preliminaries are important, the truth is they are only meant for one thing: to eliminate the ones that are not prepared for the competition. Over the course of the day, Ash, Morrison, Tyson, and other trainers are subjected to single elimination styles of battle. But as we follow Ash, we see that he's not shy about holding back, as he is able to clear 6 out of 6 wins with the likes of Vigoroth, Mawile, Pikachu, Rumpig, Flygon, and Milotic. With this performance, our hero is able to easily secure his spot within the next day's events. However, Ash isn't the only one to have made it, as Tyson made quick work of most of his opponents. There was also another trainer, Veto of the Windstreak family. Ash got a first-hand look on how he battles. Veto was the one who helped his Milotic evolve, so the fact that he's here means our hero has plenty of competition to fight through for the top spot. Though the one that did have a little bit of trouble is Morrison, as we see him in his 6th single elimination round for the day. He's having trouble with one of his newest Pokemon, known as Bagon. The little rock-headed dragon isn't doing too well against a much more powerful Tyranitar. However, its mindset is the same as its trainer, as both of them have come to enjoy the powerful double edge. While great in the amount of damage it can cause, it can also cause great recoil to the user as well. Though Bagon is a special case, as its ability is Rock Hit, so it's able to prevent any serious damage from these high impact moves. However, it's not enough to secure the redhead a win. It comes down to Tyranitar being too bulky for the dragon. This causes frustration to begin to build in not only Bagon, but Morrison as well. This allows them to tap into a deeper power and forces Bagon's evolution into the much more powerful second stage, Shelgon. This gives Morrison just the edge needed to deal just enough damage to the Rock Kaiju, moving him into the next day's events as well. Morrison laps up the attention as the crowd celebrates his win. However, there are some among those who made it into the next day that feel the boy is a joke and will only ever see him as one. This is where we move to the night of day 1. Ash and Morrison are doing their usual thing and trying to out-eat each other. The only rule really is the first one to choke on their food loses, but neither plan to give an inch to the other. This has caused a scene of disgust among the other diners in the Pokemon Center. The only thing Brock, Max, and May can do is just sit at another table, so no one thinks that they are together. However, as the two continue to argue with mouthfuls of food, this is going to rub one of the contestants in the diner the wrong way. The one known as the cool beauty of Lily Cove City, Katie. With her last nerve pinched while watching these two, she tells them both that they are embarrassments to the league with their behavior. They should both be ashamed. This causes the two to stop mid-feast as they are being yelled at by this girl. Unsure of what she is going on about, Morrison swallows his mouthful, only to ask if she is addressing them. With her irritation levels now at an all-time high, Katie yells, "Yes, I am. You two are supposed to be part of this powerful group of trainers that make up this year's tournament." please. You two are pathetic. Though I will say you, Ash, have some more redeeming qualities than your friend here, with your battles that happened in the Kanto and Johto leagues. But you are slowly lowering yourself to the level of this buffoon. It's something you should be ashamed of. The only reason you made it this far in the tournament in the first place is because Goodshow took pity on you. This causes Ash to stand up and begin to argue with Katie on Morrison's behalf, as the redhead is frozen in place by the words that she is saying. However, Katie has said her piece, capping off her outburst with one final statement, telling Morrison that he should just do them all a favor and drop out. It will give the league some credibility back to its already tarnished image due to him being here. Katie then walks off, leaving Ash angry and Morrison silent. The whole cafeteria saw this exchange. Ash tells Morrison not to listen to her. She has no idea what she's talking about. But as our hero yammers on, Morrison is in the midst of a flashback to a conversation that he had with his grandfather right before he left for Evergrande City. Old Man Moore told the boy not to act like a fool. He is there to battle and win. The focus that he had in their gym battle must be the same he displays in the Hoenn League. If he doesn't, then Morrison will lose for sure. The old man then hugs his grandson, telling him that he is proud of him for what he has done. Now, go capture the championship. Morrison then comes back to reality, questioning if he actually has what it takes to really make his family proud. While this is going on, there is another having their own personal problems. In his last preliminary round of the day, Tyson had an issue with his Meowth. Their opponent was a Persian and a trainer named Vivica. While Meowth won the battle and moved Tyson into the next day, there was a great concern when Meowth went into a frenzy and tried to attack the Persian after the battle had been called. Had the boy not recalled his scratch cat, he could have been the one packing it up instead of Vivica. Tyson is going to have to be careful, or it could cost him in the end. The next morning, we find Ash getting ready to head out bright and early. He has the first match of the top 32 that is scheduled, and he wants to make sure he isn't late. However, as the boy is departing the Pokemon Center, he is stopped by Brock and Max. While they are both here to see if their friend off, as they will only see him from the stands from this point on, Brock has another motive here. The breeder asks if Ash has started to use the Master Block yet, though he knows the answer to this, as Brock is still in possession of the batches that were made for Ash. Smiling, our hero tells Brock that he hasn't, and he's not sure if he wants to. He and his Pokemon worked so hard to get here. It kind of feels like it's an unfair advantage if he were to use it now. Brock tells Ash that he understands, but needs to address something. However, Ash is in a hurry and tells Brock that they can talk more after his match. He then tells them to find May. He hasn't really seen her since yesterday before running off. Maybe it's better if we just drop it, Max says. Brock is considering it, as Ash never has been one to embrace things outside of hard work and trial and error. Though the breeder does hope that he will come around, as he would really like to use Ash's results to finish the paper that he has been working on for his Pokeblock research. While this is happening, we find ourselves following May as she is outside in the shopping area. The girl has no real goal to her wandering, seemingly just trying to distract herself from the events that are going on, as whenever she has a moment to herself, she just can't stop thinking about what is next. It's just like the day she left on her Pokemon journey. She had no idea what she was going to do, but felt a fear of letting down her dad. But somehow, this time is worse, as the way she sees it, May will be letting down the people she holds closest to her. However, this is something that she knows in the back of her mind that she's going to have to face eventually, whether she likes it or not. As May fights with her own self-imposed guilt, we move over to the standard battlefield. Here, we see Ash as he stands across from his opponent for the day, Dominic. The boy has proven to be a crowd favorite, as Dominic seems to have a great understanding of his Pokemon. However, this is of something that is of little concern to our hero, as it's the type of battle that they are really having that excites him the most. A tag-style battle. Eyeing down his opponent, Ash wastes no time in calling on his two choices for this battle, in Milotic and Glalie. Dominic smiles, feeling confident in his two choices for this battle, sending in his Swalot and Tropius, respectively. With the start of the battle given, Ash calls for a Twister for Milotic to test the waters of the two. But Dominic has a simple answer for this, ordering Tropius into the air while Swalot fires a shockwave. It immediately becomes apparent that Dominic is after Milotic, as from above, a Razor Leaf is sent in with the combo of the shockwave. However, Ash has had enough contest battles to know this is mediocre at best, as Glalie reveals the purpose it is in this battle as the shield for the team, using a Protect to block the super effective combo moves. Seeing that he needs to use power to break through this barrier, Dominic orders Tropius to fly higher and begin to charge a Solar Beam, while Swalot provides cover with a volley of Sludge Bombs. But this is to little effect, as a combo move that Ash has been working on and developing in his time since the Grand Festival is deployed here when Milotic winds up his tail, only for it to slam it into Glalie with the levitating ice head using an headbutt at the command of its trainer. Then, for added effect, the ice type puts a spin on it that causes the sludge bomb to slide right off as it slams into Swalot. However, this isn't the end of the show, as Glalie uses the absorbent body of Swalot to bounce off and shoot straight up into the air. All of this is happening too fast for Dominic to react, as Tropius is slammed into with enough force that it releases the built-up solar energy in an explosion that consumes them both. This results in the two Pokemon falling to the ground with spirals in their eyes, making this battle a one-on-one. However, this could still prove to be in Dominic's favor, as Swalot has a great deal of defense, though Milotic proves to be too much for it to handle on its own when a botched Shadow Ball is caught in Milotic's new combination move, Icy Twister. The power of the Dragonic aura and the chill of the sub-zero temperatures is enough to cause Swalot's body to begin to harden and slow down. Dominic calls for a shockwave, but the vibrations needed to generate the electricity attack prove to be impossible in Swalot's current shape, and it's unable to respond, allowing Milotic to wrap this up with a water pulse, giving Ash the win and bringing the battle to a close. As our hero celebrates with Milotic from above, Veto watches, happy that Milotic evolved and curious about what else it can do. While Ash had a great battle, the boy wasn't the only one to win, as Morrison, Katie, and Veto all made it into the top 16. This is where we find the last battle of the day in Tyson. The boy is proving to be in a tight spot, as his Donphan was taken out pretty early, leaving only Sceptile to face off against a Machamp and Marowak. While the lizard is fast, Machamp's arms and Marowak's bone prove to be a difficult thing to have to overcome, as they can cover nearly any area that Sceptile could possibly attack from. Tyson is left with no other choice but to use a solar beam to break up the two. This creates a moment where visibility is low, allowing the Woodgecko to land a Leaf Blade on Marowak, evening up the battle. However, there was one problem. Sceptile is starting to tire, and Machamp has 4 arms to block any oncoming attacks. Luckily, Tyson has an idea, telling Sceptile to use its blades to cut up the boulders and use them as projectiles to draw the attention of Machamp. The grass type does this in a frenzy, forcing the 4-armed brute to divert its attention in multiple directions. However, it's not enough to stop Machamp, as it's still making ground on Sceptile. But this is when Tyson unleashes his true plan, calling for an aerial ace that Machamp can't block with his hands full. This allows the grass type to close out the match with a pins and needles victory, bringing the day's events to a close with Tyson letting out a sigh of relief, looking up to see Ash in the stands. Don't worry, he says to himself, we'll have our rematch, and we will see who is truly the better trainer. As the stadium begins to clear out, we find ourselves in the champions box where Steven and the Elite Three have been watching.
So, what do you think of this year's talent?
Sydney says as a broad question, while Phoebe is excited as she really just wants a chance to battle. But Steven remains quiet. The champion seems to be deep in thought, but that doesn't mean that all is quiet. This is where the screeching of the most vocal of the Elite Four fills the room.
This bunch of combatants is the worst we've seen in years. There are none that show any real promise. The chances of them providing any real challenge to any of us is preposterous. I bet you wouldn't even have any real trouble with them.
Oh, Glace, I know you don't mean that. This bunch are a bit rowdy, but they all have hidden potential, just like myself.
That's my point. If you were the best the Victory Road tournament could produce to replace more, then there isn't any hope. We might as well just end the tournament now and save ourselves the trouble.
Glacia then walks out, with Sydney in tow, trying to determine if she had meant to insult him or the contestants. This leaves Phoebe to ask Steven if he agrees with Glacia's observation. However, the champion simply looks out over the crowd, remaining silent, only with one thing on his mind. Drake, where are you? This leads us into the next day, and the top 16. These are very important, as after today, everyone else in the tournament will be faced with full battles. As of now, Tyson, Veto, and Morrison have all won their battles. This brings us to the second of the last battle of the day, Ash versus Clark. The two have been engaged in what seems like a stalemate of a battle, with Ash having gone with Flygon and Grumpig to face off against Clark's Charizard and Quilava. With the battle having stalled, Ash decides that it's time to try something else to shake things up, so he has Flygon take on Quilava while Grumpig bounces his way to Charizard. Clark has no issue with this, as he feels Charizard can provide dual support from the air without the threat of Flygon coming for it, though he finds out firsthand why Ash shifted when Quilava is caught in a sand tomb after a failed flame wheel is dodged by a dig from Flygon. Clark tells Charizard to save its partner with a flamethrower aimed at the hole that the dragon used to submerge itself under the battlefield. However, this is to little effect as a light screen stops the fire from causing any damage as Flygon ends Quilava with the Dragon Burst that brings this match to a 2v1. This just leaves Charizard, who has now honed in on the Psychic Swine, taking it out before Flygon resurfaces and it is outnumbered. But in Clark's hastiness, Charizard doesn't guard itself too well and falls victim to a Confuse Ray. The Fire Lizard crashes into the battlefield only for a combination of a Dragon Burst from below and a Swift from above renders it no longer able to battle, moving Ash on to the top 8. The boy celebrates with Pikachu and his other Pokemon as they look out over the crowd. However, he sees 2 out of 3 of his friends. Where's May? Ash thinks to himself. As Ash contemplates this, we fade over to another one of the battlefields, where the final top 16 match is currently taking place. It's here we find the cool beauty Katie and her 2 Pokemon, a Scizor and a Dugtrio, facing off against a Blastoise and an Aggron. While Katie seems to be at a disadvantage when it comes to the evolution and power, her cool and somewhat cocky demeanor proves to give her the edge in this battle. Katie proves to have a knack for battles, as Dugtrio is able to take out Blastoise with a tunnel that causes the turtle to sink at the slightest shift of its massive weight. This just leaves Aggron to deal with. However, Katie makes a calculated decision to sacrifice Dugtrio in order to give Scizor a clear path to victory. While the crowd watches, there is a split among them. Some get excited about Katie and her planning and willing to win at all costs, while others, including Morrison, have a bit of disdain for the way that she battles. It's almost cold, like her Pokemon are nothing more than pawns in her game to win. He's beginning to see why Katie is giving him such a hard time, causing the self-doubt that he had to set in just a little bit more. However, the boy is going to have to wait on this thought, as Mr. Goodshow announces that they will be determining the pairs for the top 8 right away. Above the crowd, the screens begin to randomize. One by one, they flash on the screen. The seconds tick away, only for the randomization to come to an end, and the first battle of the top 8 is announced. It will be Ash versus Veto. The 2 trainers stand across from each other in the locker room of the stadium with a slight smile locked on both of their faces. Later that night, at the Pokemon Center, Ash is finishing up a conversation with Professor Oak. The researcher asks if Ash is sure about the team that he is choosing. He has a lot of Pokemon here at the lab that would be more than willing to battle in the league. Ash says he knows they are all strong and want to battle, but he promised himself when he left Pallet Town that this would be a journey of new beginnings. Just like when Gary left, Ash wants to do this with only the Pokemon that he caught here in Hoenn. Ash realized something when he lost in Johto. He was trying too much to rely on his older Pokemon, Charizard specifically. The battle with Gary was so intense that when he faced Harrison, Charizard had taken too much damage in his battle with Blastoise, so when it faced Blaziken, it went in at a disadvantage. This time needs to be different. This statement intrigues Oak, asking Ash what he means by that. The boy explains that it goes all the way back to the Indigo League. He lost because of Charizard. I wanted to rely on its power to win. While my Pokemon were friends for the most part, they were not a team. We were not a team. Charizard was the strongest of them, and it wouldn't listen to me. This continued into the Orange Islands, but then we started to make progress and finally became united when Charizard finally came around. However, then I made the mistake of relying on it too much and isolated my other Pokemon. Charizard became the center point of my team, and my other Pokemon suffered for it. While I know they are all strong, when it came time to show off all of our hard work, I fell back into old habits using my older Pokemon, using Charizard. So when I came out to Hoenn, I wanted to make sure that wasn't a problem. I need to prove to myself that we could work together, build a unity that I had actively avoided in the other leagues. I feel like we've done that, but I need to finish the story and stick to fulfilling the promise that I made to myself. Professor Oak tells Ash that he understands. This is a moment of growth for the boy, something that only Ash can do. Whether this choice is one that is right or wrong is not for the professor to say. Just know that everyone here is supporting any decision that Ash makes. Ash thanks Oak for his understanding. Please let everyone else know that I miss them and we will be home soon. With a nod, Oak says that he will, before the call is cut off by an over-affectionate hug from Ash's sludge monster. As the screen goes dark, Ash looks at Pikachu, asking if the mouse is okay with the choice that he made for not only tomorrow's battle, but the decision to not use their other friends. The mouse lets out a brief Pika, showing that it is in unity with the decision. Win or lose, knows they are a team and they will accept that outcome together. Ash smiles, knowing that in his soul, this is something that he needs to do. There will always be other challenges, but this moment is more for him than anything else. Knowing that he has the support of all of his Pokemon behind him solidifies the boy's confidence in the decision that he has made. With his top 8 match with Veto scheduled for the next day, Ash makes the choice that it's time to turn in. He wants to make sure that he is well rested, as he knows very little about Veto's battle style, so he will need to be more alert than ever to make sure he's on top of his game. As our hero turns in for the night, we find May, Brock, and Max out in the courtyard under the night sky. The reason that they are here is because Max sensed something has been wrong with his sister since they left Slateport. The boy wanted to know what was up with her, and figured that Brock would be the best person to understand the situation, as he did with Max. While May is willing to talk to them, she is very vague in her answers, almost avoiding some of the questions as she is unsure herself on how to answer them. Brock can see that she is avoiding something, so tells the girl that they can talk later. When May is ready to open up about it, the breeder then asks Max to join him. As he heads inside, Max tells Brock that he doesn't think it's a good idea to leave May alone. He should be with her. Brock agrees, but he thinks he knows what is going on and has an idea about what can help May, but they're going to have to make a call. Curious about Brock's plan, Max joins him, only to see Brock dial a number that isn't local. Let's just hope she has some free time, the breeder says, as the other end of the line picks up and Brock greets this person with a very warm smile. The next morning, things start bright and early as the sun shines over the top of the stadium. In the center of a packed crowd stands Ash and Veto. The boy tells Ash that he was hoping that they would eventually battle in the league. After the contest they convinced him to compete in, he felt that he didn't get a real chance to see what each other can do. Ash agrees with this, stating that Veto was the reason he was able to help Feebas evolve and reach its dream. So he's been wanting a chance to show Veto the results of their training. Well, I can't think of a better venue, the young man says. It's here that they are given the go-ahead to start the battle, and both trainers choose their foe's Pokemon based upon the field that they are starting on. The rough, rocky terrain that will be swapped for a random field when the first one loses 3 Pokemon. This is something that Ash will be very careful of, as his first choice is made, declaring Vigoroth, I choose you. While Ash chooses Power, Veto decides to start off with the opposite as Ninjask emerges from the ball to start. Ash wastes no time in calling for a Crush Claw, while Veto is quick to react with the double team. He hoped that this would evade the high power move, but it still lands true, making Ash feel pretty good about the result. But as soon as the counter ends, Ninjask becomes blurry as it accelerates to a speed that makes it near invisible, allowing it to avoid a second Crush Claw and land a Giga Drain to help replenish the health that it had lost in the first encounter. While this does not really cause any real damage to Vigoroth, what happens next throws Ash for a curve as he calls for a feint attack. Ninjask's next move is Baton Pass, allowing it to avoid any damage and trade spaces with another one of Veto's Pokemon, Breloom. As the feint attack lands, Ash questions what happened. How did he swap out a Pokemon in mid-attack? Veto explains that it's the power of Baton Pass. However, he fails to mention the other added effects that Ash will get the chance to experience firsthand when Breloom is able to vanish before Vigoroth can land another strike, only to land a Sky Uppercut of its own for super effective damage. This was unguarded, leaving Vigoroth barely able to hang on, while both it and Ash try to decipher what just happened. They've never seen a Breloom with that kind of speed. Seeing that he needs a momentum shift, Ash recalls Vigoroth for the time being, as Breloom is gearing up for the next round. Veto comments that it seems Ash is a little flustered after just one Pokemon change. He hopes that it won't be like that for the rest of the match, or this won't be very fun. Ash knows Veto is right, and has an idea of what is going on, but he needs to test his theory, and there's only one Pokemon that he has that can really do that, declaring Grumpig, I choose you. As the Psychic Swine pops from the ball, Veto says that type advantage isn't going to make a difference here, but Ash simply says that's not what he's going for, though it is a nice deterrent to give him some time to figure things out. Oh, I don't think you'll have time, Veto says as he commands another Sky Uppercut. As Breloom vanishes, Ash has an idea on how to counter this, telling Grumpig to use Swift, but to use its psychic powers to keep the stars moving in a random formation around it. Doing so, the swine creates a barrier that allows Ash to test his theory, which gets an answer almost immediately, as Breloom pushes through one of the stars that seemingly follows it for a little bit of damage to check Grumpig in the gut for slightly more, before vanishing once again. While While this hurts the pig, Ash now has an idea of what they are dealing with, calling Veto out on his secret strategy. So, Baton Pass gave all the increase Nanjas had to Breloom, did it? With a slight chuckle, Veto comments that he's impressed Ash figured it out so quickly. What gave it away? Oh, just a hunch, Ash says. But now that we know how it works, it won't happen a second time, right, Grumpig? With its eyes glowing in a purple aura, the swine summons more stars that pepper the battlefield, increasing the territory Grumpig has control over. Realizing what Ash has planned, Veto decides that they need more power and defense in order to win this, so he calls for a bulk up to increase both of the stats. Veto knows that they have a way to win this, but they will need to get it close. However, the swirling zone of psychic stars is going to be a problem if they can land multiple times, but he can't wait any longer. Ash is preparing to attack if he doesn't make a move, so with no hesitation, Veto orders Breloom in with another sky uppercut. Using its amped speed, the mushroom jumps into battle, trying its best to dodge where it can. However, there is one slight oversight that Veto overlooked in this moment. Ash created this attack just to meet the situation, as with its heightened evasion, Breloom could easily dodge any normal attack. However, the Swift locks on to an opponent and always hits it, but in this case it wouldn't be very effective. So in this moment, Ash deploys the true veracity of this move, as Veto realizes that the stars are seemingly sentient and act on their own like a hive mind. With each step into Grumpig's territory that it has laid out using its psychic abilities, the stars become more frenzied as they are reacting to an outside intruder. The closer to Grumpig Breloom gets, the more the stars move until multiple explosions ring out. While these are small in nature, the real power comes into play as Breloom comes within inches of its target, and the star's true power is displayed when the explosions use the psychically charged area as a wall to bounce the percussion off and strike Breloom from all sides, dropping it before the grass type can actually land a hit, and bringing this battle to a close. Recalling his mushroom, Veto asks Ash what he calls that move. It's called Psionic Shower, Ash says. Yeah, that sounds pretty good. Me and Grumpig have been working on it for a while now, but this is the first time we've actually had a chance to use it in battle, as there hasn't really been an opportunity presented for us. I figured the only way to hit Breloom was to get it from all sides, and that was the only real way I could think of. It was well thought out, but Ash, just because you won that battle doesn't mean you're going to win this match. My next Pokemon will see to that. Now go, Alakazam. Ash can see that Veto is trying to match types with him, but the truth is Grumpig is tired, and Ash knows it, as it won't be able to match Alakazam and its psychic abilities. The one weakness of Psionic Shower is that Grumpig isn't used to using it, so it drains a lot of its stamina. Kind of a one and done deal, so the boy recalls it for the time being. However, Ash feels that his combo attack may be his key to victory here, so he knows his next choice, declaring Mawile, I choose you. Popping from the ball, Ash figures that Mawile's contest experience and steel typing will give it the advantage needed to match Alakazam. So with the call to start the next battle, Ash puts this to the test, calling for a crunch for some good damage. However, this is countered by a dynamic punch from Alakazam that not only pushes back the attack and overpowers Mawile, but hits it directly, causing the 2-mouth terror to tumble back mouth over heel. Stumbling back up, Mawile tries to get its bearings, while Ash tells it to look out, but there is something that the boy doesn't see right away, as Mawile's sway isn't preparing to dodge, but a confusion that is set in, allowing a Shadow Ball to connect with the steel type. Once again, Mawile is knocked for a loop, putting Ash in a very tight spot. Realizing that he is fighting a losing battle, he recalls Mawile for the time being. Veto stands silently confident as he watches Ash mull over his next choice, but the only thing that the boy is concerned about is the fact that he is starting in a very bad position. While he still has all of his Pokemon, they are being slowly worn down in battle. 3 of his members have been sent out, while only 1 of Veto's Pokemon have been knocked out. If Ash doesn't do something to swing the momentum, then this may be his last battle in the league. But he thinks he has a solution to this problem, declaring Glalie, I choose you. The ice head pops from the ball with a fierce look in its eye, ready to face down Alakazam. However, Veto makes the choice to recall his psychic type here and replace it with something that is much more favorable for him in a Houndoom. Veto wastes no time time and setting things in his favor by calling for a sunny day. The sun's rays in the sky intensify. Knowing that he can't sit this one out, Ash decides he has no choice but to push forward with his battle, calling for an ice beam in response. While this does hit, the damage that it does is minimal, allowing for a quick comeback from the Firehound with a flamethrower that is supercharged. The only thing Ash can do is order a protect to prevent Glalie from being one-shotted. Ash knows he has to do something or he is going to be in a worse spot, but then something hits his eyes. It's the glare from the sun's rays reflecting off of the ice that had formed from its last ice beam. It's here that Ash gets an idea and a flashback to his battle with Gary in the Johto region. He then orders Glalie to use an ice beam on the battlefield all around them. Unsure of what his opponent is up to, Veto tells Houndoom to use flamethrower to melt the ice and try to hit Glalie. However, Ash alternates between protect and ice beam to get as much of the field covered as possible. This causes the glare to build, making it really hard to see anything and what looks like after images of both Pokemon to appear where they move. Knowing this is their chance, Ash calls for a headbutt from Glalie. Throwing all of its weight into the attack, Glalie launches at Houndoom. However, Ash has made a grave miscalculation here, as the massive glare that he has created has set the stage for a really powerful counterattack in the form of a solar beam that is supercharged from the sun and the glare. The last thing anyone sees is a bright light from the reflection of the grass attack before Glalie is consumed. The only thing that can be heard is an explosion and a thud, leaving everyone in a state of uncertainty, unable to see the results. However, the sun does eventually fade and the glare dies, to reveal that Glalie has come to rest with spirals in his eyes on top of Houndoom, using its weight and the force of its fall to knock it out, making this battle a draw. Both trainers recall their Pokemon, surprised about the outcome. Veto and Ash both think that they had that one for sure. It's only sheer luck that Glalie was able to hit its target. This prompts both boys to think about their next choices very carefully. This next battle will set the momentum for the second half. Things are so close right now, one mistake could spell disaster for either. However, they both choose to use the Pokemon that they have already battled with, Mawile and Ninjask, as they are returned to the field. Ash knows that he can't let this thing do the same setup that they had last time, so he chooses to attack from long range with a sandstorm to start things off. Setting the weather allows Mawile to hide as Ninjask misses a Giga Drain. However, this allows its ability to activate. Ash knows that he needs to end this thing now, calling for a hidden power, but as the flames are sent into the storm, Veto protects his bug with the dig that prevents any damage from the fire attack or the storm, giving it a second speed boost. Not wanting to risk this any further, Veto makes the decision to deploy the Baton Pass now, calling back out to Alakazam. This puts the Psychic type in the clear path of a Lava Whip that strikes it before Veto can even react. Seeing this is their chance, Ash tells Mawile to use the power of the storm, turn it into a massive Lava Whip that Alakazam cannot avoid. The Psychic type does its best to dodge around the field as the power of the sandstorm is focused and it gains a lot more room to move. However, this comes at a cost as a barrier of lava now circles Mawile. Veto sees that this could be disastrous for a Psychic type, so he plans to use one of Ash's tactics to win here. Calling for a Psychic, Veto does exactly what is needed in provoking a massive Lava Whip from Mawile. This opens the lava shield up just enough for a gap to form. Veto then sets his plan into action as the lava arm is brought down, calling for a rain dance that causes the clouds to form in the sky and water to begin to fall. This cools the lava, slowing its advance and allowing the increased speed of Alakazam to evade it. But the now glass arm shatters on the ground. Alakazam then fights its way to the opening that was created to land a dynamic punch and end this. However, what he thought would be a cage entrapping Mawile turns out to be the exact opposite, as using its massive mouth, the steel type latches onto the glass prison and throws itself at Alakazam. The Psychic type can do nothing but slam its fist into the cage, only for it to miss and get its fist caught in the opening as one of the spoons is pulled down into the ground. This puts Mawile directly on top of its back with an unguarded opening. Ash sees this as his chance, calling for a crunch that shatters the glass, then clamps down on Alakazam for one final time in this battle. As Mawile lifts its massive jaws, Alakazam is revealed to have spirals in its eyes. This gives Ash the win, bringing the battle to a halftime and a field change. With both trainers allowed a moment to regroup to plan for the second half, we move over to the crowd where we see Brock, Max, and finally May. But that is not the only one that is here. They also have Pikachu with them. It seems that Ash made the decision not to use the electric mouse in this battle, which has sparked conversation with Max and Brock. Max hopes that it doesn't cost Ash the battle. Brock reassures Max that he has done something like this before, so he should have a little bit more faith in Ash. Besides, he is doing this to prove something to himself. If he can't win this battle with the Pokemon he chooses, then it doesn't feel like he should be in the league. This is more than just a battle to him. It's a point of validation, something that needs to happen for a choice that he made at the start of this journey to mean something. Well, I hope you're right, Max says, while asking May what she thinks, but the girl just gives a bland answer, showing that even though she is here in the stands, her head is somewhere else. Brock says nothing, only hoping that the person he called will be able to convince her sisters to actually do their job for once. After all, it's been over a year since they have seen each other, but this is a thought that will have to wait. The battlefield is finished with its changes as the rocky terrain gives way to one all of water with small platforms for Pokemon to stand on. As Ash and Veto take their positions for the second half, Veto seems oddly calm, as if this field pleases him in a way that no one will understand until it's revealed. While Morrison, Tyson, Katie, and the other members of the league watch from above, seemingly glued to their seats. Even the normally cold-hearted Glacia has shown some interest in this battle. Back on the battlefield, both trainers are told to make their next selections. The second half of this battle is set to begin, so as the rain comes down, Veto makes his choice, sending in the electric type Ampharos. Knowing that he has an uphill battle ahead of him, Veto plans to make sure that the next choice of Ash is going to fall to the static sheep. However, Ash aims to conserve the healthiest of his teams for as long as possible, so he sends back in Vigoroth, as it had the most amount of time to recover. With the start of the battle, Ash tells Vigoroth to leap from pad to pad in order to close the gap between the two and attack with the Crush Claw. Veto wants this battle to stay as separated as possible, so his Pokemon jumps away from Vigoroth while using the rain that is in play to its advantage, firing wild thunders across the battlefield to hit the normal type. However, Ash has a plan to keep the Sloth from getting fried, telling it to use its claw like a scoop and heave the water up in the path of the electricity. Though this does come at a slight cost, as there is a slight kickback when doing so, it is still better than taking the full attack. Realizing this isn't going to go the way he wanted, Veto shifts gears, calling for Ampharos to dip its tail into the water. Then, when Vigoroth is in midair, it lets loose the most powerful thunder that it possibly can, that uses the pool as an amplifier to travel up the raindrops and find its way to Vigoroth. The only thing Ash can do is call for a slack off. While this does prevent a total knockout, a paralysis has begun to set in. Vigoroth is unable to move at the call of its trainer. This gives Ampharos ample time to move across the battlefield while charging a Brick Break. Slowly, Ash watches, hoping that Vigoroth can break through and use another Crush Claw. Then suddenly, its two sets of claws start to glow as it brings up one arm to block the Brick Break while using another hand to land a second claw firmly in the gut of the sheep. While this is a clean hit from Vigoroth, the fact is now it has nowhere to go, and because it couldn't get the knockout here, Ampharos is free to use the last of the rain to send a supercharged thunder through the normal type, dropping it and bringing this battle to a close. Recalling his ball of agitation, Ash thanks it for the work that it put in. While it may not look like much, Ash can see the way Ampharos is standing that it is trying to guard its belly from another attack. Knowing this is his chance, Ash decides that it's time to send in someone fresh. So with a smile on his face, the boy declares, "Flygon, I choose you." Emerging from its ball, Veto can see that his current choice isn't going to work out here, so he recalls the electric type in favor of setting up once more, calling on the bug Ninjask. Knowing things could get out of hand if Ash doesn't do something about this, the boy starts by calling for a Dragon's Breath. Unleashing the Emerald Haze, Flygon peppers the field in an attempt to hit its much faster opponent, though this is to little effect, as once again, a double team puts it just out of reach as the second speed boost kicks in, though at this moment Veto doesn't feel confident that it is enough, so he chooses to leave Ninjask in, calling for a Giga Drain in order to recover some of its health. Though Ash isn't going to let this leech siphon off his dragon's life force, as he orders it into a place that Ninjask won't be able to dare go, the water below. This stops the bug in its tracks, attacks, as the only thing that it can do is buzz around looking for any signs of its opponent. You can't keep it down there forever, Ash, and while we are up here waiting, speed boost will keep going. So what are you going to do? Smiling, Ash tells Veto that he didn't plan to just wait it out. Ninjast is so fast that he needs a way to attack from everywhere at once. This is when it hits Veto. He has seen this move before in the battle with Charizard. He then orders Ninjast to fly higher in hopes of getting out of range, but it's too late as blasts of dragonic aura and water shoot up like pillars from the pool, forcing Ninjast to turn on a dime. But this is a problem as its speed makes it unable to avoid them, and eventually the bug flies right through one, only to be met on the other side by Flygon, who chomps down on the bug with a crunch and pulls it into the water. The last thing Veto sees is another burst of aura, then bubbles, as Flygon emerges to land on one of the platforms, while Ninjast floats up waterlogged and declared unfit to battle. Recalling his bug, Veto has some serious thinking to do. He was planning on Ninjast getting at least one more boost pass to the others, but Ash made sure to put a stop to that. He needs to do something about this Flygon. If he doesn't, then it may be hard for him to actually make a comeback. So Veto thinks that it's time for him to reveal his final Pokemon, the one that Ash knew would come eventually, Milotic. As the serpent emerges, Ash decides that he will keep Flygon in. Though the water trick did take some health off of it, the dragon is still in far better shape than most of the rest of his team. So in order to keep things going, Ash orders the dragon back into the air, as the water will now spell certain doom. However, Milotic is quick to take advantage, finding its home in the pool using the depths of the water to cover just as Flygon did in the last battle. Flygon maintains a certain distance from the water surface to make sure that it doesn't get dragged in, but this is when Ash sees something that he wasn't expecting. With a call of a hydro pump, pillars of water begin to shoot up randomly to interrupt the flight path of Flygon. Veto is using the same strategy that Ash just did, but this time the one in the water is actually meant to be there, as Milotic's control is much better than the dragon's. However, the dragon maintains its ability to stay one step ahead of the pillars, or so Ash thinks, when Milotic surfaces right in front of the dragon before diving once again, almost like it was avoiding being hit. But this was only a ploy, as on the other end of the serpent, an iron tail is brought down on the head of Flygon, causing it to dive into the water. Now Ash yells, "Flygon, you need to get out of there." However, as the dragon tries to flap its wings from the water, Milotic begins to coil around it and squeeze before pulling it back under. The last thing Ash hears is the command of an ice beam, then a flash under the surface. Flygon then floats belly up, unable to continue, just as Ninjast did. Recalling his dragon, Ash ponders his next choice, as he was hoping to get more mileage out of it. However, this isn't really a great option here, as Veto recalls Milotic. "Well, Ash, you seem trouble. Don't tell me you've lost your fighting spirit." Smiling back, Ash disputes this, stating that he is merely enjoying the moment. "If you don't stop to do that, then you'll end up missing out on a lot." Veto says that he likes that idea, so he's going to make sure that he does just that after winning this battle, returning Ampharos to the field. "Not if I have anything to say about it," Ash thinks, clinching his next choice. "Grumpig, I choose you." The swine pops from the ball, a bit exhausted from its previous overextension, but nonetheless ready for the task at hand. The signal is given to start the next battle, and Veto gives the order for a thunder. However, the reason that Grumpig was sent out here is revealed when Ash orders it to use a psi wave to manipulate the electricity coming down on it. Without the rain, the thunder has less than stellar accuracy. This allows it to stop the attack and prevent any damage, but the strain for the move is apparent as it takes the swine a moment to recover. Seeing this as their opportunity, Veto orders Ampharos to switch to hand-to-hand combat with the Brick Break. Ash counters with a Swift as Grumpig jumps from platform to platform, putting distance between the two of them. However, even with the Swift hitting for some damage, Ampharos is still in better condition than the Psychic type and quickly closes the gap, landing the Fighting type move. This isn't enough to win the battle, but it does put Grumpig on the clock. One, maybe two more hits will be all it can do. Seeing the writing on the wall, Ash knows it's go big or go home. "Listen, Grumpig, I know you're tired, but the only way we have to win this is Psionic Shower." With a snort, Grumpig understands the assignment and begins to set up the Psychic Stars, though it struggles to maintain them for more than a few meters out. Veto knows this is putting a strain on the Psychic type. He intends to exploit that without ever having to get close, calling for a Thunder. There's no way Grumpig can dodge and maintain the attack at the same time. However, Ash knew this going in, yelling for Grumpig to use the Aura Stars to block what it can. This prevents any real damage, but costs half of the stars that were levitating around Grumpig. Thinking that they can now now have a path to victory, Veto commands for a body slam to end this. Jumping from platform to platform, Ampharos gains momentum to throw all of its weight into Grumpig. Now breathing heavily and seeing double, the swine is unsure on how it should respond. Ash tells it to use the shower to stop Ampharos, but they are barely moving. This is it, Veto yells. Now finish this. The electric type reaches the final platform and does as ordered. Then it happens. Everything for Grumpig slows as it can hear its heart pulsating in its head. With its vision now blurred, it can do nothing, see nothing, or hear anything. It's over. But then Ampharos stops in midair just above the water. Both trainers look puzzled, but then Grumpig glows in an aura that Ash has never seen before. With a squeal that sounds of distress and panic, the stars that remain begin to glow and vibrate at a high pace. Suddenly, they all converge on Ampharos, striking it with an intensity that Ash has never seen. Then it hits him. Grumpig, it must have learned a new move. Sure enough, this is the case, as confirmed by his Pokedex that the Psychic type has learned the namesake move, Psychic. This allows the pig to take control and prevent Ampharos from gaining any more momentum. Even its thunder can do nothing, as the Psionic Shower takes on a new, more brutal evolution, and striking all at once to bring this battle to an end when the strain of the move causes Grumpig to collapse. But I thought we had it, Ash says, much to the relief of Veto. However, that attack had a very negative side effect on his electric type. It's breathing heavily and won't last much longer. Recalling Grumpig, Ash thanks it for the amazing battle. After some rest, they'll work on its new power. But now, the problem at hand. Ampharos. It's still holding on. Ash knows his final Pokemon is at a huge disadvantage, but he sees it's the only path forward if he hopes to win. Gripping the ball tightly, Ash declares, "Milotic, I choose you." Emerging from the ball, Ash's scarred serpent makes its battle debut, ready to demonstrate its power to the world. Veto had a feeling that this was going to be Ash's final Pokemon, so with a smile he commends Ash on raising Milotic well. It looks very healthy and powerful, but he hates that it's going to have to be taken out before it can ever get a chance to display what it can do. Now Ampharos, use Thunder. Summoning what strength it has left, the bolts are brought down with the intention of ending this battle. However, Ash just lets Milotic take it, only to counter back with a Mirror Coat that blasts Ampharos into the stadium wall with just enough force to leave it cratered. Ash knew that he couldn't play around, so he chose to make this a very decisive victory, though it did cost Milotic some health. Veto should have known that this was what Ash was planning, but it skipped his mind. Recalling the ball cheap, Veto knows that all the cards are now on the table, so I need to be extra careful, he thinks to himself. Now, Milotic, go. The serpent re-enters the battle for the final time, only to stare down Ash's. It's here that it can be seen. There is a clear size difference between the two. Veto's Milotic is much bigger, so this could mean trouble for our hero, but that's not going to stop Ash as he goes on the offensive with a Twister. However, Veto chooses power here and uses an Iron Tail to break up the Maelstrom. Knowing that he's going to have to create an opening, Ash orders Milotic under the water, as does Veto. The two serpents trade blows underneath the surface, getting to the point that no one really knows what is going on. Even the audience can't seem to see what is going on from their height advantage. But this doesn't go on for long, as an Iron Tail causes Ash's Mon to finally surface. However, it is launched from the water into the air, only to land on a platform. A little rattled, Ash decides to recall it, to give Milotic some time to recover. While down to his last Pokemon, Veto is feeling confident that he has this one in the bag, knowing full well what Ash's next choice is going to be, as the boy sends back in Mawile. While better than what Grumpig was when it battled, Mawile is still feeling the other battles it had. But this is the final stretch, and it, like Ash, has found its second wind as the battle starts, with Veto showing a bit of aggression with a Hydro Pump. However, Ash is confident that they can use this to their advantage, ordering a Sandstorm to block the attack. But the force turns some of the sand into mud that strikes Milotic like a mud bomb. Knowing that he needs to prevent as much chip damage as possible, Veto orders Milotic back into the water. However, there is an unforeseen side effect, as the mud has mucked up the water and now visibility is lower for both sides. However, this does not stop Veto, as he orders Milotic to use an Ice Beam from under the surface. Not knowing where they are going with this, Ash orders Mawile to use a Sand Whip for defense that is able to block most of them, as the steel type hops from platform to platform. But there is one problem that Ash is going to have to deal with. Nothing is really happening, and unless he can think of something, then this will continue until Mawile slows from exhaustion. Looking down at the pool, Ash suddenly has an idea that is crazy, but it's his type of crazy, which means that it could work for Mawile if it can pull it off. So with no other option, Ash decides that it's time to implement his plan, ordering Mawile to use Sand Whip on the water. The boy tells it to strike the surface as many times as possible. Veto thinks this is odd, causing him to stop the ice beams as he tries to figure out what Ash's game is. However, the boy is going to clue in just a little bit too late, as Milotic is forced to surface without his command, allowing Mawile to finally strike the serpent once more. Now on the receiving end of an assault, Veto orders the serpent back into the water to avoid any damage it's taking from the whips and the sandstorm. But this is when he finally realizes the problem with that, as the water has started to thicken from all of the sand that it has captured, turning it into a sludge that Milotic can't navigate from inside. Seeing no other choice, Veto orders Milotic to the platform and to use an ice beam to target the field itself. The serpent lets out its most powerful attack that it possibly can. That flash freezes everything, turning the mud into an ice battlefield. Now, with a solid footing all around it, Ash feels far more confident, calling for a double team. With multiple clones appearing around the field, Milotic sprays them down with a hydro pump. The power of this is enough to send Mawile into the wall of the stadium, though it isn't enough to stop the steel type, as it is right back at the move, pushing even harder and harder to make its way through the volley of ice beams and hydro pumps. Ash orders it to put a spin on its movements, dance around the attacks like you were in a contest. This pleases Mawile, as it has now found a sense of enjoyment in this battle. The movement is enough to prevent another battle-ending blow, as Milotic does its best to slither around the ice in an attempt to coil around Mawile, but this is what Ash wanted. Now, with the chase on, Ash turns up the heat, ordering a lava whip that strikes the serpent across the face and the body as it recoils to prevent a full-on hit. But the heat on this move is what is concerning, as without the water, a burn has set in. Feeling confident, Ash orders Mawile on the attack. This may be the moment they can end this. At the command of a crunch, Mawile opens its massive jaws. However, Veto knows that he needs to stop this, ordering an Iron Tail that crushes down on the steel type. The last thing it sees is the glow before black, as Mawile is slammed into the permafrost, knocking it out while Milotic winces at the burn. Though this isn't the outcome that he had planned, Ash is still happy with the result. Mawile put in a lot of work. Now he just needs his water type to finish the job. So he recalls the steel type and sends back in his final Pokemon. Emerging from the ball, Milotic is a bit tired from the last battle, as it was overpowered by its counterpart, but Ash tells it not to worry. He knows that they can do this. With an elegant cry, Milotic embraces its trainer, confident in it, while on the other side, Veto isn't liking where he stands. Things are not as sure as they were when Milotic was out last time, so he and his serpent will have to be very careful. With the signal to start the final battle, the crowd watches from the edge of their seats as both water Pokemon put their full power on display. While Veto has size and power on his side, Ash has technique, which allows for some clever counters with its Icy Twister that managed to cause the hulking serpent to begin to slow. This puts Veto in a very poor spot, and he realizes that there is only one real way to win. So in a move of desperation, he deploys the last move in his arsenal of his serpent, a Toxic. Ash can do nothing but watch as Milotic is covered in the poisonous ooze. Our hero realizes what this means. Now both of their Pokemon are on a timer. It's going to come down to whoever has the better endurance. And since Ash let his serpent take an open thunder, things aren't looking too good for our hero. Ash realizes that he's going to have to gamble if he wants to win this. So he throws caution to the wind and orders Milotic to engage with the opposition with an Icy Wind. However, this is overpowered by an Ice Beam that strikes it back, causing it to cry in pain. Just a little more, Milotic. Hang in there. Now, use a Water Pulse. But again, it's overpowered by Hydro Pump. Veto can't understand what Ash's game is here. The more Milotic moves, the worse the poison is going to become, and all of its moves pale in comparison to that of Milotic's, as the Icy Twister is broken up by an Iron Tail. This just doesn't make sense, but the onslaught continues, and both the burn and poison run their courses, and the serpents begin to slow down. This is the moment that Ash had been waiting for, as he calls for Milotic to bind onto Veto's. Veto can't understand this. Ash knows his Milotic is much larger and will win every time, but he feels that the boy boy is up to something and would rather be safe than sorry, ordering an ice beam that is aimed at the field to erect a barrier between the two. But this is when Ash kicks his plan into action, telling Milotic to intercept the attack and retaliate with another mirror coat. Doing so, the serpent takes on a great deal of damage, only to send it back at its opponent double in the midst of a small explosion, causing smoke to appear. Both trainers can do nothing but watch as their two serpents keel over from the exchange as the smoke settles. Suddenly, it occurs to Veto what Ash's plan was. He was trying to force them into a moment of desperation so he could do this, but it kind of backfired as it took longer than Ash had intended. Now both trainers are forced to leave it up to the iron will of their Pokemon. The judge has begun to count both of them. If they don't get up, then this battle will be declared a draw. The two trainers begin to cheer on each serpent, pleading with them to show any signs of life. 10, 9, 8. Please don't let it end like this, they all yell. 4, 3. We worked so hard. This is what we pushed for. 2, 1. And then a flag is raised, and Milotic is declared unable to battle as it has passed out from the strain of the battle. With the recall of the serpent, Veto smiles. I guess it was their day. Ash, stunned, looks on as the crowd finally breaks their silence and erupts in a flurry of celebration. We did it, the boy thinks to himself. Ash recalls Milotic as it is in desperate need of rest, then walks over to Veto to shake the competitor's hand. Thanks for an awesome battle, the boy says. Smiling, Veto tells Ash that he's glad that they could do this, and if there was anyone that he would accept a loss from, it would be him. The two then shake hands as the audience cheers them both on, and we pan to the stands where each of the competitors are. Tyson muses to himself, if that was the first battle of the top 8, then we have our work cut out for us. But for Morrison, it's a bit of a different feeling, as he's beginning to think that he won't be able to battle on the level needed to compete in the top 8. However, he's not going to have time to shake off this feeling, as his battle is up next. And this is where we're going to leave things for now. So tell me, what did you think about the start to this league? Is it shaping up better than the one we originally got? Do you enjoy the battles that we had and the full 6-on-6 between Ash and Veto? What about the Elite 3? They all seem to be of differing opinions at this time. Do you think they are all founded? What about Drake? Where is he? And has he seemingly abandoned the league as Glacia suggested? Then there's Steven. Why has he been so tight-lipped about this? Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below.